So now we're coming up into the final section of the workshop on board roles and responsibility. There are essentially five critical core questions to see whether or not an organization has the capacity to operate as a board. The first question that board should be able to ask: why do we exist? What problems do we address? Who are we? What is unique about our organization when you look at other organizations? What do we do? What programs or activities that you use in order to bring about the results that you want to bring about? And then finally, how how do we do it? What is your strategy for implementation? And then how much does it cost? Okay, let's look at some other stuff related to the board. Let's look at the infrastructure assessment. First of all, you should be able to rate your board in terms of your governance structure, your qualified staff that you have, your financial management and physical sustainability, your program quality, and your access to resources. All of these should be some of the things that you ask yourself as you move forward with your board of directors. Of course, your organization don't have to worry about this because you're a small nonprofit. But big nonprofits, larger nonprofits, need to address all of these questions here. Every organization should be able to undergo what's known as a SWOT analysis. That is, the organization should be able to identify what are the strengths, what do you do well, what are your weaknesses, how will you improve yourself? You understand? You identify your weakness, and then you need to ask yourself, how do you improve it? And that's all internally that you look at yourself. You also have to look at yourself externally. You have to look at what are the opportunities, the future. That is, what are the favorable trends that you can use to leverage to bring in money? And then your threats. What conditions could harm you? Well, one of the conditions that's helping a lot of nonprofits is that funders, especially the federal government, is reducing the amount of money that they're getting out there for nonprofits. Every nonprofit should have a theory of change.
You said
And
the
the theory of
federal,
change
I'm sorry,
puts up,
you said the federal governments are limiting the amount of money they're giving?
oh yeah, they reduce it down substantially. And it hasn't been this, they haven't reduced this amount in the last 30 years, 35 years. I would say easily they probably have reduced the amount that they give out from anywhere to 30 to 55%
Hmm.
across the board.
And it's this really this administration really that we're
This
in.
administration, correct.
Okay.
Only this administration, because it was way more money going to Biden administration.
Mm-hmm. The
But
Republican, the
when
Democrat.
when
Mm-hmm.
the new administration came in, that changed everything. That's
Michael,
why nonprofits need to not only depend on federal money, but you also have to depend on foundation and corporation money. And as we proceed in the classes ahead, we're going to talk about where is the money, foundation and corporation and individual money that's out there, and how do you use that in terms of supplement any federal or government money that you might lose. Okay, so yeah, funders do want you to have a theory of change. And the theory of change basically say, what is the process that got you here? What did you have to do in order to get to where you need to get to? For example, if you were saying you're going to help people in terms of taking a GED, then you have to break down, well, what did you do to do that? Well, we had to get pre-tests, we had to get post-tests, and then we have to do a final test. So you have to talk about that particular process.
and you
And
know
you're
what?
going to
That
break
wouldn't be
it
a
down.
bad thing. I'm sorry, that wouldn't be a bad thing to include because, the environment that, wow. So the sky is the
Oh
limit
yeah.
when
Oh
it comes,
yeah, definitely.
because
The
you
sky
want
is the limit.
the
You know,
sky is
and
the
that's
limit.
a lot of nonprofits. When I go back to the question of depending upon the government, I think that's been 35% of nonprofits have closed their door since the president took office. 35%. That's the highest rate ever.
Hmm.
Added to that, black nonprofits, man, they have felt the worst impact of these cuts. The worst impact of these cuts. But what nonprofits don't know, and that's why I'm glad you're taking this class, is that there's a lot of money out there other than government money. We get so stuck on the government money, then when that happens, all of a sudden we close our doors. Okay, that being said, let's talk about what are the different components of a theory of a change, a theory of change. First, you have to ask the question, what activity do you do? What output do you bring about? What outcomes do you plan to bring about? And what impact do you plan to bring about? And this is a theory of change. We put together all this type of paperwork as you move forward with your nonprofit. And then that's the logic model. A logic model virtually is a visual program framework. In this
So
section, you
so
talk
wait a
about
minute. So Michael, so when I do the grant, all this gonna I have to answer all these questions. All this is gonna be laid out.
not all grants, not all grants, right? But most grants, as you begin to go for money, yeah, they want to see that. Because when you do like the theory of change, when you do the logic model, what you're saying to them is that you actually did your homework. You're not speaking from what might be, you're breaking down on how you're going to get there to make it a reality. So that's what a theory of change and what logic models do for the funder. And the larger model consists of program design, program evaluation, how you can communicate with your funders, how do you plan to train your staff. Okay, let me close out on this. So this is part two of the presentation. This presentation is focused on the statement of the problem. Earlier we talked about the statement of the problem, talked about what is wrong. We also talked about that there is a difference between a statement of the problem and a need statement. And we broke that information down here when we began to give an example of the problem statement and the need statement. We ended by saying that grant writers want you to start with what the problem is and not the solution. Today's agenda. What are our takeaways after class this evening? First, an understanding of the problem statement, purpose statement, and the stakes that's involved. The six key components of an effective problem statement. Writing strategies, framework, tone, and audience. Common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Research, documentation, and citation practices. Structuring your narrative with hooks to close the deal. And finally, hand-on practices and self-assessment tools. Okay, any questions before we get started?
No.
Okay, why the problem matters? Often the first section the reviewers look at is the statement of the problem to see if it has substance. Your statement of problem sets the tone and the credibility of your proposal. A weak problem statement can kill your program. Although you might have the best program out there, the problem statement you didn't articulate it well enough and you can lose that money. So a clear problem statement makes your proposal solution feel untouchable. Awesome. That's why you want to have a clear problem statement. We won't go deep into that. The cost of getting it wrong. Vague problem statements are the top reason why programs are rejected. You don't give the meat. You ever hear this phrase, where's the beef?
Mm-hmm.
From way back in the day? Well, it makes sense here. You give them a lot of bread, but you don't give them the beef. And that's why it's called a vague statement. And most reviewers will reject your program immediately. The other thing is that you want to make sure that it's clear, that the funders can see a clear picture of what you're trying to do. So, what are the 6 key components at a glance? First thing we're going to talk about is program identification and definition. Next, we're going to talk about evidence and data support. If you don't have evidence and if you don't have the data, your program will die. Next, we're going to talk about the target population. Specifically, who is it that you're targeting? Some people will say everybody. Immediately, I tell them you're not everybody. You have to specify the specific population and the specific geographic scope that you're looking at. Local, state, federal, international, etc. You have to be able to talk about what's the root causes and contributing factors involved in what you're trying to do and consequence of inaction. What happens if nothing is done? Then you have to talk about the current gaps and the burials that face it. Let's start with the first component, program identification definition. Clearly define the specific problem you would address. Do not be vague. Do not use generalization. Say generalization. Be specific. Be precise. Frame the problem in terms of that resonate with the funder's priority. That's why you always want to look at the funder and see what their priorities are. So your statement of problem can align with that and distinguish between the root problem and the symptoms. We're going to talk about that. Strong versus weak problem definition. Weak. Our communities need more resources. Stronger. 1 in 4 children in the county lack access to affordable after-school programs, limiting working parents' options and child academic support. See, the weak one is our community needs more resources. For what? But the stronger one is when you break it down. You break down who it is, and you break it down what the problem is, and you break down what the solution is. That makes sense to you?
It does. Uh-huh.
Good, because that can be part of your homework assignment. Anyway, let's continue on. Okay, a simple problem statement formula. You can use this formula to solve any and put together any statement of the problem. First, you want to talk about who's the population that you're going to focus on. Place. Where is it? The problem is next, and then eventually, what is the evidence to support what you're saying is true? Because of root cause, you have to show what the solution is. So this should be draft first. The first thing you do is to draft this particular statement of the problem. Okay, so you identify what the problem is. You articulate who and why and where. Now, the next component is where's your evidence and your data support? So what does that mean? You should present, and we're going to talk about this in the next section, not this section, on how do you do the research to identify the sources to use for your support. So anyway, let's go back to this. You should present compelling statistics from credible sources within 3 to 5 years. You don't want to use any data that's 10 15 years ago. In fact, it's best if you use the most recent data from a year to 2 years. And then you want to include quantitative data. We're going to go deep into quantitative data. And quantitative data is numbers, percentages, and qualitative data evidence is testimonial and case study. Trust me, put a footmark on that because we're going to go deeper into these two types of data source. You can get information from the local, regional, and national data to show the problem. I always say get it from local, region, and national because you want to show that when you compare the problem that you're trying to solve, when you look at the regional area, the problem in your area is even more greater. And when you look at your area and you look at national data, the problem in your area is even more. You want to show that you have a serious problem when compared to the national and the regional level. Now, you have to cite all sources. And where did you get the information from? We're going to talk about that also. I told you we're going to talk about the difference between quantitative versus qualitative evidence. Quantitative data is statistics, rates, counts, and survey percentages. Qualitative data is testimonial, case studies, and observation. Quantitative shows scale, while quantitative shows human impact. So let me give you an example when we talk about quantitative data. Well, let's say you're doing research on how many kids are failing in school, and you're going to different sites and getting that information. That's called quantitative data. Because according, for example, the Department of Schools, 4 and 5 kids fail in their first year. That's how you begin to get the data using quantitative data. Qualitative data, when you actually do a focus group and ask the kids themselves, why are you failing? So you see the difference between the two? There are two different sources of data gathered that you're going to need to get. Don't even try to digest all this information. That's why I do this and record it so you can take it piece by piece apart. Okay, any questions so far?
You're deep. You're talking and I'm thinking, oh Lord, the need is down there just for me to open my eyes and really the need is over there.
And that's
The
the
need
beauty
is
of it.
there.
When you finish this class right here, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna think differently. You're gonna look at things differently. You're
The
gonna look at
need
the world differently. It's gonna be like a wild awakening when you finish this class right here.
and the things I
And you're
can
gonna
do
separate
with this. And the doors
uh
I can open with this. Yeah.
it's unlimited.
It
It's
is.
unlimited. Because what they say, knowledge is power. The more knowledge you got, the more power you get.
Mhm.
See, when I was going in training, they wanted me to go and teach the elite, right? But I
Mhm.
got that training. I said, no, I'm going back to the hood. And I'm going to teach my people so they can be competitive with the so called elite. So when they go for dollars, they get those dollars. Okay, let's continue on. So, where do you find credible data? Again, during the next lesson, we're going to get really deep into how to find that data, and I'm going to give some examples on how to do it nationally, locally, to get that information. But for now, let's speak in general. In general, you can get that source from federal sources like the Census Bureau. The Census Bureau will give you everything you need, anywhere from how many computers is in a how many computers is in that household, how many cell phones, you name it, you can
Mhm.
get it. You also can get information from the CDC and the Bureau of Labor, just to name some. But it's way more other sources. You can also get information from state and local health department and human service partners. You can get from university research centers and peer-to-peer journals as well as foundation funding, community assessment needs, and other data that you can collect on your own. We're going to go so deep into this right here that we devoted one class to gathering data, credible information. Let's continue. So let's talk about what they call the data triangulation, combining the three sources together. The first thing you want to do, and this is very important, if you don't remember anything tonight, when I come back and ask you one thing that you remember, this is one thing you should remember. Never rely on one single source. When you quote your data, use different data source, not this one source. Also, cross-check national data against local and regional data. So you can show that, hey, look, the problem in my area is worse than if we look at the regional or if we look at the national level. And then this is very, very important. Always pair hard numbers with short client or community stories. Always put a story behind the thing that you're doing. If you're dealing with young people, okay, get a story from that mother to talk about how important your program has been to her and her child. Okay, let's continue on. Any questions?
Hmm. Okay, you say
Okay,
pair hard numbers with a short client or community story. So when they get
and
the
hard
number,
numbers is like this. Hard numbers is in Virginia, over 1,000 kids drop out of school every year. That's the hard number, right? And then when you do that interview from that child that drop out of school, that goes with the hard numbers. The hard numbers data compared with the real person that's actually experiencing. That's what they mean. Because hard numbers is only numbers, but you always want to tell that story through a human. Through a human, right? Definitely. So let's back up for example. For your business, what is it that you problem do you seek to solve?
what problem do I seek to solve? Um,
First, tell me what is it that you do?
childcare.
Okay.
20, well,
So
licensed 24-hour childcare services. I'm also a
okay.
CPR instructor.
So what
So
problem are you trying to solve?
what problem am I trying to solve? The poverty in the area.
No,
Um,
the problem that you're trying to solve is provide the services. So these individuals can go to work. A, B, C, and D. You see what I'm saying?
providing services so
Yes.
families can go to
Think
work.
about it like that. Okay? Because the problem is that without you, they wouldn't have this service. And without this service, they wouldn't be able to work. If they wasn't able to work, they wouldn't be able to take care of their kids. If they wasn't able to take care of their kids, the family would break up. If they were not doing that, they'd be on welfare. See how it goes on and on and on.
Right,
When you
services and maybe a
articulate what the
meal or
problem
something,
is.
hot meal and stuff for the
Yes,
families.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. See it through that light, right? Think about what happens if you don't do this. That's how you address the problem. That's what the funders want to see, and that's what a lot of people fail to tell the story. No, they don't tell that compassion. What happens if we were not here? Okay, let's continue. Now, I'll let you finish writing. Let me know when you finish. Because I know you like me, I like taking notes.
So you said the problem I'm trying to solve, provide services to families in the area. So,
Right. And articulate what those services are.
huh?
Now, that's going to be part of your homework assignment that I'm going to give you. You're going to
I'm
break
having
down what the
homework.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What you're going to find out, everything I'm asking, you already know you hit already. I'm gonna teach you how to pull it out and tell it in a different story.
Okay.
And tell it in a different story. But it's already in your head. You know what the needs are. You know what happened if the kids wasn't coming to your program.
I
You know
know,
what happened
because
if they
some
don't
they're
get
not coming right now. That is, oh my goodness. Oh, parents need
I'm sorry, what was
education.
that again?
Yeah, because I have some right here not coming, and when they come, they're all over the place. And the ones that are coming, you can tell they're, follow the guidelines and stuff and the routine. And the ones that are not coming, they come every now. They come one day here, they come one day, and it's like it's terrible. It's really terrible. And this
Yeah,
is
it's
when they
it's
get
even
it when they're
it's even
young. This is when they
oh
get it.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's even approaches to increase your attendance as well, especially with that particular population that you're dealing with, right? All that goes with understanding who the clientele is, making an assessment of who that person is, and identify their particular unique needs in order to solve the particular problem. It could be a lot of reasons why they're not attending, because mama don't have a job or mama don't have transportation.
Don't
It
have
could be so many
transportation,
other reasons, right?
bus
That's why you
pass,
put
or
that into
food.
the
Yeah.
total problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's continue on. Oh, okay, yeah. Building a population profile. One of the things you want to do is to put together a population profile. In that profile, you're going to talk about what's the age range that you're dealing with. What's the age range? What's the social economic status and income level? What's the racial? What? Let me ask you a question. What percentage of your students? Give me a percentage of the race of your students.
Give you what now?
Yeah, race. What is the race of most
Oh,
of
the race,
your?
the race, the race, the race, the race. You know what? Because I have contracts all over the place. It's mixed. I have Caucasian because I also have a contract with foster care, and it's mixed.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
and
mixed.
not
And I
only
have
not only is it race, but you also got have specific populations of individuals that you deal with as well, and we need to be able to tell that story as well.
But
In
yeah,
addition
over
to
there is mm, mm. Over there's a lot of Mexican. And when it comes
okay,
to Mexican weather, it's a lot of Mexican in the area. So some are
right,
really you can't talk about the ones that are illegal. So
right.
you can't really which is a shame. And they need it the
Yeah,
most.
and that population is experiencing they are experiencing some they are experiencing some scary things. They don't know whether they can come out the house or whatever the case might be, if they're
Exactly.
snatched. Yeah, so
Exactly.
yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So
We need
right,
the
yeah.
resource, but we can't touch them. Oh God, can't touch them at all.
I
Not
know
with this
that's a
government
sad
money
thing.
and this. We can't go there. Can't go there at all.
Yeah, yeah. But
Mm.
guess what? In your nonprofit you can, because now you're gonna go after non-federal money. Non-government money. And when
Oh,
you go after
really?
non-government money, yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Now you put yourself in a different categories when you start going after grants. Because now you can't touch that population. That's a lot of stipulation when it comes to federal monies now. Way more than was
Mm.
before. Way more. Way more.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it's way more stipulation.
that's
Whereas
good.
so individuals every day get money. What do you mean by individual? I'm somebody talking about somebody like Bill Gates. They get rich and they start a foundation. It's a lot of rich people that start foundation, and you want to pump into that money too, especially with government money being dried up like it's being dried up. Okay, so yeah, you want to break down specifically to talk about what that profile look like, socioeconomic, language, urban, suburban example. Etc. Key component number 4: root cause and contributing factors. You need to be able to analyze the underlying cause, not just the surface symptoms. What I mean by that? So you got a person that is committing violent crimes, okay? And you say that person is a violent person. That's just a surface symptom. The question is why? What's the underlying cause? Oh, because he lives in a violent community. Oh, because his family uh, uh, focus on violence. So you always want to look at the underlying cause as not and not just the symptom. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's continue. Then you want to discuss the systemic, environmental, and structural factors involved and what the problem is. We want to talk about that also. You want to show an understanding of how complex the complexity of a problem. When someone comes to you and they say to you, "Oh, that's so simple," a problem is never simple. It always has different layers that manifest itself. It's not separate. And the only way you can understand it, if you peel back those different layers. Like that child running around with a gun. There's more to that child running around with a gun. Where did it all start at? Let's pick back those layers. And then we can
Yeah,
come to
a
the root
child.
cause.
Some an adult got to bring it somewhere. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So then we peel back. This is not as simple as you think. You're looking at the aftermath. But let's go back and see how did it all get started. That's what we call the root cause of a particular problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, again, um,
Michael, you're gonna give me because I'm here taking pictures. You're gonna give me. I know you're talking, but I'm gonna be able to see this too.
yeah, you gonna get this in the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
You should have gotten that. Okay, did you get the last email I sent?
I was just listening to
Oh yeah, you
I
got
was
that, and you got the PowerPoint presentation.
listening to
So
the
you got
video.
the video and the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Also, the video is when you want to sit back and get some keynotes, and the PowerPoint presentation is like if you got on your phone and you got time, you can just go through that. And say, oh, okay, now I know what Mike is talking about when you go back to the video. So that's why I do both of them together. Okay, so let's dig into the root cause. The first question we ask, why? Repeatedly until you reach a systemic factors. And you deal with the five whys. Techniques help separate symptoms from causes. They give an example. Low graduation rate equals chronic absentee equals lack of transportation equals no transportation in the morning. See the root cause? Instead of saying that child is not coming to the school, you saying why? Oh, because the cow doesn't have transportation and there's no public transportation in the area. You got to get to the root cause of the problem. You might do an assessment on your clients and find out one of the reasons why they not come to class as much is because their parents might be going through it or something might be going on in that household. That's why you want to try to do an assessment of the household as well as the child when you're dealing with these kids. Because you always want to show the funder that you go to different road. You go to the highest level. You just don't look at the child itself, but you understand the problem child is associated with the family. So you try to make a family assessment and help the family in a holistic way. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, now let's talk about the difference between correlations and causation. Causation. Two factors moving towards together doesn't mean one causes the other. Example, poverty and low literacy are correlated. The cause run deeper than that. So you have to show the causation as well as the correlationship to things. You have to be able to cite research in order to show the relationship that you're trying to prove. We're going to talk more about this as well. Now, let's talk about the fifth component. What happens if we do nothing? What happens for inaction? Well, first of all, you talk about, and let's go to the let me see, high school. Let's go to the area where there's a high rate of dropouts. Okay, and let's break that down into the underlying problem that we need to address. Now, let me ask you, what happens if those kids, if the dropout rate continues to grow?
The crime rate will go up.
Yes, people will become dependent on the government. Okay, more likely than not, uh, they're not gonna be able to provide enough money for their family. They're gonna have
Things
mental
get
health
expensive.
issues.
And because they're stealing
Yes,
those things, they get expensive in the area. The
yes,
stores,
yes,
yeah, others
yes,
have to pay for it.
yes. So you always want to show what happens if nothing happens. And then you want to put a cost on it. For example, how much does it cost to jail a person for 1 year? That's $25,000, maybe 50,000. Okay? How much does it cost to take care of a person on welfare? That might be what? 12,000, 15,000. And you start to add these numbers up to show the cost factor involved in what you're doing. We're going to talk more about that later. And then you want to calculate the cost. Did I? Yeah. Then you want to calculate the cost for inaction. Here, they estimate the direct cost in healthcare, mediation, and emergency service. Here they give estimate impact costs. Low productivity, low earnings equals dropout rates. And they give an example. Unrelated, untreated chronic absence cost the district 25, no, 2,400 per student. See how they put a number on it? And when you're
Hmm.
going to put grants, you have to put a number on it. Not that it's a problem, but what it costs without solving the problem. Okay, and now we come to the gaps. Now, this is where you begin to identify what the solution currently, what solution currently exists. This is where you talk about what you plan to do. Well, no, actually, let me back up for a second. Here's where you begin to show that there are existing programs out there. The programs are not sufficient enough to solve the problem. That's when you begin to look at other programs out there that's similar to you, and then you find out, what can I do differently to make my program more unique? Like the family assessment. A lot of aftercare, daycare programs and things like that, they're not doing family assessment. They just dealing with the child. Okay? This is how you stand out. And you show the gap and how while there are other programs out there, mine is better. Or you might say we use AI as part of our curriculum that other programs are not. But you always want to look out there to show that while there are other programs out there, here's why our program is better. And we're going to look at that as we go through the different classes. We're going to look at your industry and we're going to look at your competitors. We're going to look at what they're doing and what you need to do to make it even better. Okay. And then what you want to do is an environmental scan. I talked about it earlier. You want to map existing programs and service and services addressing the problem. You want to look at all of them, 5 of them. Compare yourself to them. You want to identify capacity limits, waiting lists, funding cuts, etc. Now, you might want to, but most people don't, interview other providers and see what they're doing. But since you can't do that, because most people ain't gonna tell you, you can look at that program at their website, and you can make an assessment as to exactly what they're doing,
So if they
what you're
won't tell us,
doing.
I mean, I probably can go look into another, maybe another county or another state, right?
Yeah, but you can look here, but nobody's gonna let you come in and share with you what's wrong with their program and how you can improve your program. That's not gonna happen.
Mm,
So in lieu of that, you're gonna go to that site, that website, and see what that
okay.
program has and what they. You have a website, right?
Yeah, I do have a website.
Trust me, people are going to your website. They're looking at what you're doing and what you say you're doing, and they're looking at how can we be doing it better, just in case we're going after the same funding pie. Constantly looking at each other to see, hey, man, what can we do to take this to the next level? Okay, and then finally, the checklist. First, we talked about clearly program, clearly identify and you distinguish what are the symptoms, the evidence that you need, the population, the root cause, and existing gaps and burials that you have to document. Okay, now from the problem to the solution, the logic model bridge. The problem statement identifies the gap your project will close. The root cause identify the target population and the intervention that you plan to do. And the constraints in terms of inaction talks about the outcome you plan to bring about to prevent that. And then finally, a tight problem statement makes your logic model easy to write later. Now, we're going to do a different section on how to write a logic model, a different section on how to do a theory of change. Right now, you're just getting the preliminary information. So when I tell you you got a lot of information that's coming, you got a lot of information that's coming. When you finish, you can consider yourself a professor and all the stuff that I'm going to be
Really.
coming at
Michael,
you
I
with.
got so much going on, but when I finish, I got so
But
much
look, that's
classes.
the beauty of it. You can take your time.
I
You
have
can
so
you
many
can skip a
classes.
week, you can skip 2 weeks, and we come back. But that's
So
the
many,
beauty of it. It's like elder teaching. You know what weeks and days is not going to do it for you. What weeks is not going to do for you. No problem. We'll skip that and we'll come back the following week. That way you're not under pressure when it relates to this class because it's on your time. When you take a regular class, it's on that time. If you ain't finished by this quarter timetable, then yeah, you got a problem. That's not the case with this class. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, writing strategies and techniques. When you do strategy, you want to use what's known as but and therefore in terms of framework. Okay, like for example, you can say the situation, how things currently look. And then you go to the but. However, this problem exists. And then finally, therefore, the intervention that's needed. For example, the current situation, kids are dropping out of school. The but. But if there was a program that was able to attract them, then that wouldn't be the problem. Then therefore, we need this program in order to reduce the dropout rate. I know that's not making sense to you, but at some point, you're going to follow this logic format like in everything you do in life. In everything. That but, therefore framework. Okay, let's continue. And then, this is important balance emotion and logic. A lot of time when I'm having a conversation with a person about a particular topic and I'm asking them to explain it, they take the emotional side instead of the logic side. And the logic side is here's the evidence to support my claim. They might say emotional. Kids are dying every day. I can't understand why kids are dying every day. The logic model is kids are dying every day because they don't have the necessary role model or resources necessary to change that lifestyle. Emotions versus logic. That means you have to lead with data and evidence. Remember earlier, supported with pyramid stories and example. All the time, like for example, when we in this class, our final class, I'm gonna ask you to give me an assessment of this class. So people can see, and I do this all the time, people can see what people actually get. And the way you're gonna be talking, you're gonna tell them, I never used to talk this way, like this. And the terms that I'm using, I wasn't familiar with these terms. And you at the end, you're gonna say what it has done for you in terms of increasing your economic value and your skill set.
After I finish the
Okay,
grant, then I can do that. You just right?
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. But trust me, look, you're gonna when you finish class, writing that grant, you're gonna say, yeah, I understand what Mike said from the beginning. Now you understand why I was trying to push you. You want to take this grant class. You want to take this grant class. If you want, sure, I can write a grant. Sure, you can be like do a business plan and all that. But you want to take this grant class because it's going to make everything make sense. Now it's going to all of a sudden make sense. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, and now this is talking about the different tone. You think you want to be, you don't want to be too clinical. You know, you don't want to be too clinical. You don't want to be too emotional. For example, children go to bed starving every single night. You don't want to be too vague. Many families struggle to get by. What you want to say is that 1 in 5 families in the county report being out of food before the end of the month. See how that's different from clinical, emotional, and being vague. You to the point. You telling them who it is, where it's at, and why it is. Okay, let's continue on. And then your audience. Okay. The one thing we want to talk about in class when we start to look for grants is that you're going to look at the funder's language. And you're going to use that same language when you write the grant to them. You're going to use the same verbiage they use, and you're going to give it back to them. And they're going to appreciate you for that. Okay? All right. Yeah. So let's talk about the different types of funders. Read for me the first type of funder.
Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Government grants, measurable outcome, compliance, cost effective. That's
And
the
guess what?
government.
Most people think there's only government grants, and that's the only money out there. But let me
What's the,
tell you,
go back, go back,
wait a
go back.
minute. I know I didn't mean that. My
Okay.
hands left me. I didn't mean to move
Private
that fast.
private foundation,
The next
alignment with
type
mission.
is go ahead, read that.
Yeah, alignment with missions and funding priorities, and corporate funders, community visibility, and employee or customer connection. You gotta tell me about these. Individual/family foundation, personal or founders driven causes. And then read guideline closely. Each funder
Yes.
type reads need differently.
And it's true.
Individual
Each of these
family fund.
funders
Oh yeah.
require a different approach. And we're going to talk about which one and how to write for each
Oh, wait
one.
a minute. Let me. Okay.
Most people think that's only government grants. They don't
Right.
know that you got foundation, corporate,
Right.
and individual and family foundation. Can you think of a family foundation?
A family foundation?
Right.
I don't know any. Oh,
The Gates Foundation, the
who?
Ford Foundation, the
See,
Gates,
you
Bill
know them. I
Gates.
don't know them.
Oh yeah, these are big time.
You know what? You know what,
Um,
Michael? We going we going to Chicago on Wednesday because I'm nationally accredited, and they said the Bainham Foundation pays all the way for the hotel and the
yeah,
flight and everything. It's called the
yeah.
Bainham Foundation.
Now you see what I'm saying. It's
The
more money than that's government money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what you call a family foundation or an individual foundation. More likely, the bank foundation is a corporate foundation. Like Bank of America. They got a Bank of America foundation to give money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying to you, and I hope that you get it, is that there's so many other sources of funding that's out there.
You know
And you
what?
don't,
Come to think about it, even those the guy that got killed and even the one that went to prison, they're different stars. Like the different actors have different foundation because they're
yes,
setting up to help them.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
there's
That's what we call individual foundation.
yeah.
Most celebrities have a
Celebrity.
individual foundation. Most
Mm-hmm.
do. Or you have a family foundation because the family come together. So you got all kind of monies that's out there in order to meet your particular needs.
Okay.
Hey, let's talk about some common pitfalls to avoid. The first is, oh man, hold up, where was I? Hmm. Oh, okay. The first is circular reason. I hear this all the time. Let me give you an example of what they're saying. Somebody will tell you the problem is that we don't have a program. That's circular reason. It lacks a solution. It just talk about the problem. Or it's too broad. Well, trying to solve world hunger instead of food insecurity is in a Pacific area. That's a pitfall. It's too ambitious, right? Or assumption based, making claims without evidence. Don't fall for any of these pitfalls. Okay, let's continue. Let's talk about some other common pitfalls. Deficit based language. For example, only focusing on weakness and not community strengths. One is called one is called community access mapping, and the other called need statement. When you do community strength, you're talking about what are the assets in that community that we can build on. Jargon overload, using field specific terms without explanation. Like in your field, you probably got a lot of terms specific to your field. What? That's called
I
jargon
have a lot of terms for one.
for your industry. Terms that y'all use to describe kids and things of that nature. The average lay people don't use those terms.
Oh, okay.
Then you got weak documentation. This is the worst thing that you can do when you got weak documentation. Or you misalignment. Misalignment. That is, program doesn't match funders priority. Let me give you a second. An example. So you writing a program to a youth foundation that focuses towards you. But your program says that you're going to make it better for senior citizens to live healthier.
Oh
What's
no.
wrong with that?
Oh no. Two different
They don't align with each other.
different beats.
Exactly. You'll be surprised at the number of people that write a grant without reading what the funder wants. Has to align with the funder's request. And then we got this before and after. one of the things to talk about before we write, for example, our nonprofit needs funding to help homeless people in Ireland.
Mm-mm.
After over 400 individuals experience unsheltered homeless in the county each year, 22% increase since 2023, driven largely by the shortage of affordable one-bedroom units. See the difference between the two. The
Yeah.
one, our nonprofit needs funding to help homeless in our area. Ambiguous. After, when you really do it, then you break down the who, 400
Mhm.
individuals. The
Mhm.
what, unsheltered homeless. The where, in the county. And what's going on? It's been an increase of 22%. Okay, see how sentence A lacks what sentence B has. Always rewrite. Okay, now research and document tips. They talk about the primary sources. We're gonna go over this in a later presentation, but for now, they talk about primary sources. Primary sources: government database, peer review, local need assessment. So when you're evaluating sources, you're going to use what's known as the CRAAP tests. The C is how current is the information. Remember we talked earlier, it should be
Mhm.
3 to 5 years,
Mhm.
or I think it should be from a year to 2 years. Recent information like that. Next, the R is for relevancy. Does it match your population and your location? Next is authority. Is the source credible, recognized organization? Next is accuracy. Can the figures be verified? And finally, purpose. Was the data collected objectively without an agenda? Okay, let's talk about collection, um, data collection methods. One way that you can learn about quantitative data, and we talk about quantitative and qualitative data, and we're going to talk more about it in the section by itself in another lesson. But one way you can get that information to find out what the person is thinking, you can do a survey or a questionnaire. Let me ask you, do you do any questionnaires or surveys when people leave at the end of the year?
I have done it in the past because I do have a review on Google. I do have some reviews from
Yeah, you
clients.
definitely want to do that because
And
your best source of what's going on is to ask them what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and what would you do to improve it.
to
Believe
change
me,
the
you're gonna get
changes
your
would you like
best
to see?
information.
And you know what? It's the beginning of school year. I need to redo my contract, so I probably can write some of
Yep,
those in it. So
yep,
who,
yep, yep,
where,
yep.
what do you like? What do you like most, least? What would you like
Yes,
change?
yes, 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 yes. And focus groups is important because as you're going for that grant to cater to now you said after school program or daycare you doing?
Say it again.
You doing a daycare or aftercare
Daycare. This child care.
or childcare? One thing you want to do with that childcare, you want to do a focus group.
A
You
focus
want to
group.
sit down and ask the parents, what if anything is stopping you from your kids having 100% attendance? You want to do the focus group. What do you think I can do in our program to make it better for you and your child? And then you want to ask them, what are the hours okay? Ask them what the different hours, in the day. Is this okay? You always want to get that information from those people. And guess what? When you start to write those grants, and those grantors see that you actually doing your clockwork and you getting feedback from your people, that's another reason to increase your chances of getting that grant. It's all
My
about
my
the
my
number
my goal
game.
is my goal is to do two shifts though. My goal is to do like from in the morning and then one from like 6 to 11 or yeah, but that's my goal to
Well, let
encompass.
me ask you a question. Why can't you do from 11 to 6? From 11 p.m. to 6 in the morning?
Oh,
You know there's a population of people that work during those hours. And if
okay.
your facility can
Round the
accommodate them,
round
now
the
you got
clock.
a new group of people that's coming in.
Yeah. And it's in the
You
USF
want to make
area
that building work 24 hours a day, so cash flow is coming all day long.
all day long.
Yeah, that's a hidden population of people that's out there.
It
You
is.
know, and oh yes. Oh
Hospital to
yes.
Walmart, and it is.
Yes. Can you imagine the number of people? But this goes as you build up, when you accommodate that third shift. You start the first and second shift, and eventually you build up for the third shift. And when you start looking at those different shifts, because one organization I was working with, and they was doing something like a co-op where people can come in for their businesses. And I said, you know what? You're losing money between 6 a.m. I mean, between 11 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning.
Hmm.
I said, what do you mean? I said, what I mean is that you got a lot of people that have a business, but they
Hmm.
can't do that business until after hours. So now you present them with an opportunity to do a business, a co-op business during those hours. When they did that, their cash flow went out the roof. Without the roof. Of course, they had to add more staff and stuff
Hmm.
like that, but their cash flow increased substantially, and then they become well known for 24-hour service. And they attracted people from all over the place. And trust me, the funders loved it. Anyway,
Really?
that's another story.
Okay.
Okay, then you want to cite best practices. You always want to use footnotes and endnotes, looking at publication dates, websites that you use, etc. We'll talk about that more as we get deep into program design. Then you want to have structure and organization. That is, you should have 2 to 3 pages. Typically, we want to talk about that later on. And then you should have these different hooks that's going to get people to keep reading. We're going to talk about that in another section and how you do that. The body of the paragraph, making sure that there's a logical flow from general to specific, from topic sentence to guideline readers, and build your arguments. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And make sure you got three smooth transition between idea to one idea to another idea. The closing paragraph, summarize it. Now, read this simple paragraph for me.
He says in Jefferson County, 38% of families with children under 12 report skipping meals at least once a month due to costs. State Hunger Survey in 2025. This food insecurity disproportionately affects single parents household in the county's 3 rural school district, where the nearest full-service grocery store is often more than 15 miles away.
See how they
Mm.
did it? They told you who? They told you the most recent information. Man, and if I'm a funder and I'm looking at this, I'm saying these people did their homework. They did
Mm.
their own homework because they was able to give me a specific statement of the problem. The why, the who, the where, and the what. All tied up into this paragraph.
Mm.
Okay. And then before you submit it, you want to make sure you got your open hooks together. You want to make sure your data is together. You want to make sure that you don't have jargon in there. You want to make sure everything is tight. And then this is important because when they look at your grant, and we're going to talk about one section we're going to deal with is how do grant writers score grants. That's another section. But generally speaking, they look at It's the problem stated in plain specific language. It's the need substantial with credible data. Does the scale justify the requested funding? Does the program match the funder's mission and priorities? And finally, is a program is this a program your organization is positioned to address? Okay? This is going to be some of your home assignment. Don't look at that. I'll shoot you these questions. I'm going to put it a little bit different though. Takeaways. Read the takeaways.
A strong problem statement is specific, evident, and human. Root cause matters more than symptoms. Root cause matter more than symptoms. You say write for your funders without losing your authentic voice. Structure guides the reader from hook to solution. Revise using a self-assessment checklist before you submit.
Okay.
Structure guides the reader. Question
Now,
and next step. You were joining
read
today.
that one.
Read that one. It's a question and next step. Thank you for joining today's workshop. Slides and resources will be shared after the session. Office hours are available for one-on-one proposal review. Contact the program office with follow-up questions. So when do I
That's normally
contact
what
you?
I
Huh?
yeah, that's normally when I got a large class. But we're doing a one-on-one, so you don't have to worry about that. You can hit me anytime you need to hit me. So, I'm about to ask you a question. And that question is, give me two things that you learned tonight that you didn't know.
Oh my goodness. You went over so much. Oh, yeah. Oh, the
This too,
different funders. We talk about the different
right?
funders.
Right? We're
The
talking about the
different,
different ones. That's one.
yes. So a lot of people, and you talk about a lot of people went out of business because they was only relying on the government.
Actually,
They didn't know about the rest of
two good takeaways,
they
especially the
didn't
takeaway that a lot of people close that door because
only,
they
only
ran
relying
out
on the
of business
government.
because the government stopped funding them.
Hmm.
Definitely. So
And
I'm going to shoot you.
a lot of people care about children and their well-being. So you're right.
They do. That's why you're in a good area where the subject area, the industry that you're in, you're in a good area. Your thing is to focus on expanding beyond the government
State the
and
problem
looking
and
for
the
other
solution.
other dollars that you can that you can bring in. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you want to do. Look beyond that, because what you're going to find out is that most of your competitors they rely only on government money. Only, and they only depend on money on the local level. Where so you're going to be looking at money at the state, national, and international level. So you can bring in money from a diverse source of funding. So I'll shoot you those questions. Don't worry about it. Take your time or whatever, right? And I'll shoot you I want you to put together a statement of the problem, and then we'll take it from there. Next week or the next time we meet, it's going to be all about the numbers. How do you research the data? What government source do you go to find data? That type of information. And then we're going to deal with one section that's going to deal with how funders score applications. You know, and this is coming from funders themselves. Because in addition to grant writing, I also sit on different committees in which we fund organizations. So I got inside and outside information. That's why one section is going to talk about what the funders really
Wait a
are
minute.
looking
Wait a minute. You have who? You have funders? What did you say?
at. Yeah. Well, I used to sit on committees that fund programs. So I
Oh,
understand what funders are looking for, and of course, I also wrote grants. So I know it from both perspectives. The next section is going to talk about what the funders look for when they want to fund a program. And then, well, we're also going to talk about how do you do the research as well. Any questions before we leave this evening?
oh, it's a mouthful. Oh, Lord, it's a lot. But anyway, so you say you're gonna send me something I need to do before we meet again?
Yes.
So when would you send that?
I'm going to say it sometime this week. But don't focus on that. Focus on the fact that you got to do what you do. So you can take your time, and the homework is not essential. You got to do what you got to do. You know what's ahead, and you know you got a lot to do to prepare for it. So
I
this is a
do.
small
So,
thing.
so I'm going out of town. I don't want to and I'm gonna have my computer, but I'm going to a conference Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and come back Sunday. So I can't do anything. I'll be at a
Yeah, you can
conference.
address it next Monday or next Tuesday, because it's gonna be a quick quiz. It's not gonna be that complicated. Maybe four or
Okay.
five questions, six at best. So don't worry about that. Just focus on what you're doing in order for your bread and butter to do what you need to do to keep your organization going. And I'll get that information over to you.
Okay, Michael. Okay.
Okay, until the next class. Have a good one. Be safe. Have a safe trip, and I'll see you there.
Okay. Thank you, and feel better.
Thank you. Me, I'm hoping. I'm doing everything I need to do. Thanks again.